I did just want to kind of say Merry Christmas, everyone. Look, I got my little Darth Vader sweater. We're excited for everyone that's going to be joining. I do see a couple participants logging in right now. As you log in, make sure you leverage and utilize the chat box feature down there. What's nice is you can ask myself questions. You can ask the presenter questions. And in addition, you guys can even network with one another, meaning if you have a deal, feel free to pitch it in there. Pitch it a couple of times if you are either looking to lend money, looking to borrow money, maybe doing a wholesale fix and flip, doesn't matter. Leverage that chat box. It goes out to everyone that's attending to the class, and you guys can work with one another. As always, please make sure you do your own due diligence. So we always like to state this strictly because Quest, we don't endorse any deals. We don't endorse anyone that comes on, that's in our chat boxes down there. So make sure you do your own research before proceeding with an investment with one of these individuals. Now, I understand today was supposed to be about us doing a presentation on storage units and things. And unfortunately, our speaker, he got sick. He was unable to make it very last minute. So we're going to go ahead and do something a little different. I'm going to kind of cover here for a minute, but we're going to focus today mainly on lending money and the due diligence behind it. The biggest issue we see in why investments typically go bad is someone did not do enough due diligence. So if we're going to talk about due diligence stuff, I want to bring in a due diligence expert who's been dealing in real estate, dealing in notes, dealing in rentals, dealing in fix and flips, and dealing in multifamily. What better person to bring on than someone who can deal strictly in a due diligence aspect from every angle possible? So before we dive into this area, I want to talk a little bit about Quest, okay? And we're going to go ahead and focus mainly on some things that we notice that people seem to have some issues with, right, just from a Quest standpoint, okay? So before we dive into that, let's see, we're going to, quick disclaimer, as always, Quest, we're only here for education, right? We don't provide investment advice. We don't provide any type of tax advice, legal advice. My job and anyone else's job at Quest is to educate you on how to leverage and utilize a self-directed IRA, okay? Sometimes what we do is we'll lay out bricks. We'll say, hey, you can do an investment A, B, C, or D. These are your options. Which one works best for you? Notice it's not structuring advice. We're just giving you different paths to go down, okay? So what we're going to kind of talk about is real briefly, what are some of the benefits of using one of the self-directed IRAs at Quest? The first thing that always pops up is diversification. I want to point out from a diversification standpoint, your retirement account is typically diversified in public assets. What's a public asset? Stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, etc., right? These type of things, if the market crashes, all of them seem to tank, okay? Therefore, I'm going to argue you're not truly diversified if your entire portfolio is holding public style assets. On the other side of the fence, we have something called private assets. And this is really where Quest comes into play. On a private side, the private assets are things that are tangible. Some I can touch, feel, see, look at, right? Mainly, we see real estate investments, rental, fix and flips, wholesale deals, lending money secured by property or maybe secured by another tangible asset. So I'm not saying move all your money to a private side, but it makes sense to have some in the public sector and some in the private sector. The biggest reason we see people leverage a self-directed IRA, though, is really for the tax savings. Understand and note that anyone out here and anyone listening, unfortunately, they're a taxpayer. Knowing that I'm a taxpayer, I cannot always avoid taxes on any investment. But did you know if we leverage and use the self-directed IRA, we actually can do this? The legal definition to an IRA is a tax-exempt trust. Key word in there is exempt. If I, as an individual, do a fix and flip and I make $10,000, my $10,000 is actually subjected to taxation. However, if I did that same fix and flip using my IRA, that $10,000 is not taxable today. And in certain accounts, it may be truly and potentially tax-free, like the HSA, the ESA, and the Roth IRA. The last real big advantage I normally see people leverage and utilize is something called investing in what you know best. I used to actually use my IRA and I tried investing in the stock market and penny stocks. And when I went through these type of motions, I always tell people as I went through it, I never had education. I never had training. I couldn't call up someone and say, hey, is this a good stock to buy? I get, oh, or I got the, well, a lot of people are buying it right now. So that's what I had to base off of. But when I go to do a real estate investment, what's unique is there's so many platforms for good education, especially when it comes to real estate, whether you're bringing on a coach or a mentor, whether you're just watching YouTube videos, or you're attending one of these Quest classes to get solid education and being able to invest in something that I like to call what you know best. So these are really some of the benefits that we see. Right before we bring on our speaker, guys, we're going to talk about plans that can be self-directed. Things like that traditional IRA and that Roth IRA you see there on the screen. The traditional IRA is probably the most popular, knowing it's a tax-deferred account, right? Meaning any investments that we do will grow tax-deferred. The Roth IRA, which is the one that everyone likes to think of as the sexy account, or it's really, really powerful because they call it the tax-free account, right? We see a lot of people setting these up right now so they can knock out that 5-year clock or do a Roth conversion. If you have questions about this, just yesterday, Nathan Long, our president, did a class on the Roth IRA. So make sure you watch that class and let us know if you have any questions on doing one of these types of conversions. Don't forget to leverage the chat box and pitch your investments below, right? And feel free to ask any questions to myself or the up-and-coming presenter that will be on here in just a second, okay? The next plans we do see are the self-employed plans, SEPs, Simples, and the most powerful solo 401k. Yes, Quest does offer these plans. So if you do have questions about setting one up, you do need to get it set up here fairly quickly. We can walk you through how to set up a solo 401k with no issues, all right? Finally, we have those specialty plans like a health savings account and an education account. Both these accounts are very unique in the aspect that they do grow completely tax-free. So if we're able to do an investment either in the health savings account or the education account, we can grow the investment tax-free, touch the profit tax-free, and spend it immediately today. Whereas when we leverage one of those retirement plans, we can only do it and benefit from it in the future, meaning when I retire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring on our next presenter right now. Hold on. Sending him a message, see if he's coming in. Boop, boop, boop. And boom. Once again, guys, I do apologize about the class. I know it was supposed to be mainly about the self-storage unit, and we're going to go ahead and redo that class. I am so sorry. I mean, things happen around this time of year. We know it's getting colder. It's the winter season. People get sick. So I'm going to talk briefly about the presenter I'm going to be speaking with today. His name's Paul Lenatos. He actually runs a company called Blink Lending, but ignoring his company, Blink Lending, what he really does is he works with real estate investors. He works with them from borrowing money. He works with them from lending money. He works with them on vetting deals. He talks about things like credit scores, talks about things from ignoring that aspect, also dealing in things from fix and flips, rentals. And he's been dealing in real estate for such a long time that he's become a good friend of not only myself, but actually a lot of RIAs across Texas. So he should be coming on in just a moment, guys. Outside of that, we have a couple of really cool events coming up, especially right around the corner. We have an event with Nathan Long and Eddie Wilson, where they're really be talking about a lot of other unique things from this aspect. I'm also going to take a moment and talk about some unique things that are coming up internally at Quest. If you guys haven't been aware of Quest, we are updating some internal systems from the client portals to make things easier on yourself. We will be updating our fee schedule. And then lastly, we are also going to be doing some more events, hopefully next year. Maybe we can get back to doing them in person. So.
Derek, looks like Paul has his hand up in the chat box.
Oh, really? Thank you, Kurt. Charles, if you're on, can you go ahead and make Paul one of the main hosts of this meeting? I see him in there. No wonder he wasn't able to log in or come on. Woohoo. I'm looking for him in there. Kurt, can you do me a favor? Can you call Charles directly and have him make Paul Limnados? He's right in there. I see him in the chat box. Right? Can you make him our host? That's why he can't log in. Gotta love these live meetings, guys. No matter how many times we do them, there's always unique things that seem to happen and come up and play. So that's kind of funny. Ooh, look at this. All right, guys. Well, while he comes on, he'll be coming on in a minute. All right. I do want to talk about some things that we see people leverage and utilize as investment choices when they're dealing in a self-directed IRA, okay? Because we're going to keep the presentation moving. Paul, when you log in, you should be popping up on my screen in just a moment. So what are some investments that we can do in a self-directed IRA if we can't do public assets, if we can't do stocks, if I can't do mutual funds, bonds, CDs, right? We typically will see people leverage things from single-family homes, foreclosure properties, condominiums, options, tax liens. And these are what I would label as a real estate investment, meaning my IRA is going to take direct title to the property right away, okay? Now, there's other types of investments in there from a private entity investment. This is usually where your IRA is going to set up or invest into an LLC, a trust, a C Corp, something along these lines where the entity is now going to buy an investment. This is a unique way people leverage this mainly for multifamily investments, for dual levels of asset protection, or even it's a unique way as long as you have that non-disqualified person in there to get forms of checkbook control, okay? The final method that we usually see people leverage is something called notes. Now, I personally am an investor using my IRA and promissory notes to make these type of things happen on a main basis. So, and promissory notes means I'm going to use my IRA, right? And with my IRA, I'm going to go ahead and lend a real estate investor money. This means that they don't pay me back. I actually get to keep the property that they're going to head and leverage. So I'm messaging. Kurt, I just sent you a text of Paul's number. Can you make sure Charles can get him on here? I'm not sure what's going on. So.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with Charles. He's working on it.
Perfect. Cool. So one of the big things people don't understand is how to actually leverage and use the IRA to take title to an asset. So when someone sets up an IRA, right, your IRA, believe it or not, is its very own entity. Okay, at Quest, your IRA has its own name, its own address, its own signature, its own level of asset protection. So people are like, oh, why do you charge me $100 to set up an IRA? Well, yeah, we charge $100 because it is its own entity. Imagine when you went to set up your LLC or your trust, if your attorney only charged you $100 to set up a brand new entity with its own level of asset protection. It's very, very unique. So anytime we leverage or use an IRA, right, we see someone set up an IRA, this is what it looks like. So if you want to set one up, Kurt is in the chat box. It costs $100. We can get one established for the end of the year. We like to say that once you find your investment, your IRA will actually send money in exchange for the title of this property, okay? Whether it's a note, an asset, an LLC, doesn't matter. This does mean that all of the profits going to go back to the IRA directly. I like to say this is the most common way and the easiest way for a beginner to do an investment when we use IRAs. This method of investing in self-directed really does work, okay? This is, like I said, the most common. It's, in addition, remember your IRA is its own entity. So what's going on behind the scenes, right? I like to say Quest stays involved. This is very important, okay? Because if Quest is staying involved, we're going to review 100% of the investment documents, okay? So notice this process does take 24 to 48 hours, and ultimately we're going to be walking you through every aspect of this in general. So without any further ado, like I said, I'm going to bring on a personal friend of mine. His name's Paul Limnados. He does run a company called Blink Lending. And I'm going to let him talk about mainly diligence, notes, single family homes, and everything that he's kind of dealt with as an individual. So Paul, are you with me?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but that's okay. I don't know if you're going to use a PowerPoint or whatnot. And I appreciate you coming on such short notice.
Oh man, I'm sorry. It took a while to get going on here. Boom! There I am.
I love them.
There it is. So you called me, and I was in my wife's she shed, our garage apartment that she's turned into a gym. And I'm up there working, making phone calls. You know, the kids are downstairs and we're having some housework done. You call, you're like, hey, we've got a few minutes. I was here ready at 12:03 for the record. I was not dressed like this. I have not got my hair cut in quite some time. So the Santa hat will stay. I will take the glasses off. I am ready to go when you are.
You got about 40 minutes. I'm going to let you take it away, man. I know you can go over a wealth of information. I'm still here. I'm just going to be shutting my camera off. So if anyone has questions, I'll be bringing it on. People are already saying nice and they think it's funny. So thank you, Paul.
Love it. Love it. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Looks perfect.
Awesome. All right. So I'm a private lender. I love talking about note diligence. As a private lender, it's very, very important that we keep our money safe. So it's Quest. Why not talk about notes, right? So this presentation is going to be about note diligence. It typically takes about an hour and 15 minutes to do this presentation. We've got 40. So if I go a bit quick, if there's any questions that you have, my email right now is Paul, Paul @Blink Lending. Feel free to ask any questions and I will get back with you promptly. By a show of hands, virtual show of hands here, who believes this slide to be true? All right, wonderful. And who here by virtual show of hands believes this to be about halfway true? Yes, you are correct. This is half true. Knowledge is not power. We've been being told this since we were kids. I am a huge fan of this cartoon, G.I. Joe. And again, Derek, the presentation is up, right? Because I can see myself. I just want to make sure you're seeing the presentation. Fantastic. As a kid, loved watching this cartoon. They always ended it the same way, right? Knowledge is half the battle, or knowing is half the battle. And I didn't really understand what that meant. Then I got married in life, and I realized that on Valentine's Day, knowing to get my wife flowers is one thing. Knowing to get my wife's chocolates is one thing. If I don't actually take the action and do it, well, it doesn't mean anything. So this is my invitation to you here. I promise you will get some nuggets. There will be some information here for you to add to your business, whether you're a private lender or a borrower. And if you're a borrower, I encourage you more to listen to this presentation because this lets you know exactly how lenders are underwriting you from the guarantor standpoint, right? And as a private lender, well, you're obviously able to better protect yourself from what I call bad borrowers. Now, so my invitation to you is to whatever knowledge you get is don't just store it up there, actually apply it to your business. Now, this presentation was started way back when I'd go to actual Quest networking events. I'd go to private lenders and I would say, hey, I've got this note to sell. I've got this client, they're amazing. Got a 780 credit score. They make about 200 grand a year. They've got 150 in their checking account, another 300 in their IRA account. And what they want to do is borrow money. Here are the terms that I've given. Our loan's about a 65, 70% loan to value. Here's the address. And right when I got to the address of the property, I'd see their eyes start getting big. But when I was talking to them about how awesomely qualified this client, the borrower is, I saw this glossy look on their face, like almost as they didn't care. Until one point, there's someone who I'm friends with now came up to me and said, Paul, I don't care. You tell me too much about the clients, the borrowers. I don't care. I want to know if the deal is a good deal, I'm going to lend on that deal. Well, I kind of felt like this guy in the picture here from the sense of, well, of course, as a lender, you're only going to lend on good deals. When would you ever lend on a bad deal? So if you're only going to lend on good deals, why not pair up that good deal with a good borrower? That way you have a great loan. And now you're able to, well, great property if you have to take it over, great deal. But most importantly, you're going to get paid back from your borrower. So that's how this presentation started. One of my favorite quotes ever is, it's not return on my money I'm interested in, it's the return of my money. As private lenders, the first place we have to go to is, how do I make sure I get my money back? There's a lot of my counterparts and colleagues that'll say, look, never lend on a deal unless you're willing to own the property. If I went by that principle, I probably would have done 4 loans in my career. I don't want to own any properties. That is why I'm a private lender. If I wanted to own properties, or I was prepared to own the property, I would just buy the property. So my model is only lend to people that are going to pay you back. And I've got well over 200 just the past few years loans under my belt. We have 1 foreclosure. Our clients pay us back, even in the middle of an unknown that came from March until now. Thankfully, we have been paid back. And the secret is clients, clients, clients. If you don't like that quote, try this one on. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. First person was Mark Twain. This person is Warren Buffett. Basic same principles, right? As private lenders, we cannot lose money. And so if you remember this movie, it's The Matrix, right? A very famous scene in The Matrix. Morpheus is handing Neo 2 pills. And it's basically the wake up pill or the stay asleep pill, right? Well, here's your choice too. You can log off, stay asleep. You continue, you're taking the blue pill or the red pill, whichever one you want to call it, I forget, of knowing the questions to ask. And going forward, if you don't ask these questions, well, you can't say you didn't know. You just simply chose not to ask them. Now, what is private lending? Most of you know it's a mortgage. That's really all it is. It's a mortgage. It's from one peer lending to another peer. And at the end of the day, he or she who has the gold makes the rules. So private lending, very simply put, is one peer lending to another based on their rules. That's it. What's our intention today? Well, our intention is to underwrite, to get our guidelines put in order. Another way of underwriting and guidelines is a strike zone, right? I'm a big fan of baseball. Kelsey here, for those of you that watch our lender lunch lessons every Wednesday at 12 o'clock, Kelsey's in those videos with me. She played softball. We love using sports metaphors. So for this presentation, strike zone, right? Baseball players, if they swing at pitches that are outside of the strike zone, well, the chance of them connecting and hitting and getting a solid at bat drastically diminishes. As opposed to when a batter has their strike zone perfectly identified, and they know when a ball goes here and when a ball goes there or a ball goes here, this is what I need to do. Their batting average drastically increases, right? So as private lenders, knowing our guidelines, knowing our underwriting matrix, what that does is it allows us to swing at pitches, take on loans that are in our strike zone. And when loans don't fit our strike zone, we don't. What is this? What really matters in lending? 2 things: the guarantor and the collateral. The guarantor, person, organization, or thing that provides a guarantee, right? And the collateral is something pledged as security for collateral to be repaid for the loan, right? We are here to talk about the guarantor, the borrower. If there's a percentage, 95+% borrower, 5% less property. I care about the borrower. I care about the borrower. People with good intentions make promises, but people with good character keep them. That's very important to me, especially when it comes to the people that we're lending to. You're going to see here that we not only want to lend to people that have they can show a history of doing what they said they are going to do, but also are able to do what they said they're going to do. And it's very important that you have those 2. So, guarantor. Team Quest, if I'm supposed to be monitoring the questions, please let me know. If not, I'm just going to go through. Awesome. So guarantor, 5 things: credit, income, assets, experience, and exit strategy. And we're going to go into each of those. First is credit score. At its core, someone's credit score is their numerical representation of their ability to do what they said they're going to do. So I'm from the show me school, don't tell me school. You get to tell me for a little bit, but then if what you're telling me isn't lining up, next. Credit score. I'm at an advantage in that I'm able to pull people's credit as a licensed and bonded, insured, independent mortgage company. We have access to tools that the everyday private lender doesn't. Now, with that being said, you can still investigate a little bit here, right? Here's a list of 6 questions you can ask quickly to cover those. What's your current credit score? Measure those versus your guidelines. I like clients that have 700 plus credit scores. Do we lend to people that have less than 700? Yes. We like other compensating factors in play there. But 700 credit score and above, that's kind of like, to keep the baseball metaphor going, we're on first base, right? And in order to come across home, well, first we have to get the first base and then we round the bases. So I want to know, does the credit score fit my guidelines? Next, Who and how was it pulled? Is this a credit score that was pulled by a mortgage company, or was this Credit Karma that pulled the credit score? Also, how long ago was it pulled? Is this credit score that you, the borrower, are giving me, is this a recent credit score that you got a week ago when you were either buying a car or getting a mortgage or applying for a credit card? Or is this something you got 6 months ago when you bought the house? Want to know the timeline. And then I want to know, has anything changed since then? Because if it's, I've got a 780 credit score, when was that pulled? 6 months ago. Awesome. What's changed since then? Well, I bought a truck and some materials and this and that. Well, now I know the credit score is likely decreased, right? If you want to dive into these last two, it's what are the amount of unsecured credit cards you have and amount of secure credit cards you have, and the balances on each of those, right? I'm peeling the onion back a few layers here to find out, is this somebody that does what they say they're going to do? Another way to ask is, if you don't want to get all the way there, is simply, if you had to rate your credit from a 1 to a 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, what would you rate it? Now, no matter what number they give you, the gold is in the follow-up question, which is great. Let's pretend they tell you a 7. Great. What is keeping you from being an 8 or 9? Because that's where you start finding out the gold. It typically starts out like this. Well, I had a divorce, or I had a something else. And then you get to start getting more information from them regarding what's available to them. And so, again, if you had to rate your credit from 1 to a 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, where would you rate it? And what's keeping you from being 1 or 2 points higher than that? If you don't want to ask those questions and you just want to pull their credit and you're not a licensed, independent, and bonded mortgage insurance company, go to these 2 websites. Creditchecktotal.com. Your client, your borrower, pays to pull their credit. It costs a whopping $1. So $1 cost, they can pull their credit. And if they don't want to pay the dollar and they're looking for something more cost friendly, well, they can go to annualcreditreport.com, pull their credit report there once a year, and it's free. So Derek, I've got Quest pops up as your name, and Quest is calling in right now, and my cell phone's going up with Derek Long. So I didn't know if maybe I went off, but clearly I did not. 2 websites here, fantastic for you. Why is credit important? It establishes my loan to value. See, the higher the credit score, the more the more willing I am to lend. I mentioned earlier, do we lend to people that have less than 700 credit scores? Yes. We're just likely not going to go to 70% loan to value, and we're definitely not going to go above 70% to value. So 700 credit score, 70%. That's where my underwriting hat goes. Now I can continue asking the questions, which leads me to income. With income, here are questions to ask. Are you currently employed, or are you a full-time real estate investor? How long have you been doing that? How much do you make per year? How are you paid? How long do you intend on staying in that current position? And are you married? And if so, does your spouse work? To first-time borrowers, I like having their spouses sign as a guarantor. If they don't want to come on as a borrower, I want them signed as a guarantor. Previous experience has taught me that if husband doesn't answer the phone, you call wife, she answers the phone, vice versa. Phone tends to get answered to go from there. Perfect. As I get the spouse on as extra security. Now, if the client's very strong, high credit scores, high assets, I'm not going to want to bother them into getting their spouse to sign. Also, if they're a repeat client of mine, now I know how their contractors and the whole deal works, then I'm okay with it. Now, you don't want to ask those questions. Here are 2 forms. 1, you can Google request for verification of employment. 2, you can ask for their tax returns. I ask for tax returns even on fix and flip deals. And the reason for that is I want to make sure they don't owe Uncle Sam any money. You see, if you're going to flip the property, I don't need to know how much money you make, because I'm not refinancing you into a different loan as opposed to those that want to buy a property, renovate it, and keep it as a rental. When a client wants to keep a property as a rental, we want to make sure that we can get them out of any loan that we get them into. So the last thing you want to do as a private lender is put someone into a loan that they can't get out of. That means your money just stays there. So back to it. I want to make sure they don't owe Uncle Sam any money. And if they want to keep the property as a rental, I want to make sure they qualify for one of these 2 types of financing, either conventional or non-conventional mortgages. Assets. I get asked this question often. Paul, you go over these 5 things. What's the most important? As a private lender, you want to lend money to people that don't need to borrow it from you. That's the secret right there. Lend money to people that really don't need to borrow it from you. Now, how do you get them? That's a whole other secret sauce. Assets, what to ask for. How much do you currently have in liquid assets? How much of that's in your checking and savings account? How much of that's in your 401k and IRA? I often get asked, hey, Paul, how much weight do you put in IRA funds? A lot. For someone to put money aside for retirement, that tells me something about this person. That's the person I want to lend to. Really love it when clients have money in their retirement accounts. Well, my counterparts and other colleagues, private lenders will say, well, Paul, you can't touch that money. Great, lend to the right client to where you don't need to go after them and sue them. And, well, it just says something about the client that has it. Others, any free and clear property. Love cross-collateralizing properties, especially on clients that don't have as much funds as we like them to have. And are the funds yours or they borrowed? When I ask you borrow, are they yours or they borrowed? I have borrowed money from my parents before to apply for a loan. I presented myself in the light that I had a lot of money. I did on paper. It was not my money. They didn't ask the question. I didn't do anything wrong. You want to ask those questions. Again, you took the red pill. Now, you don't want to ask all that stuff. Ask them for 60 to 90 days of bank statements. Why do I want 60 to 90 days? Because I want to see, did that money come in the bank a month ago? Was it a large deposit? And now what happens is your bank account, for example, bank account balance shows $110,000. Except 6 weeks ago, there was $104,000 that was deposited in that bank account. Well, where did that money come from? And is that consistent source of money that I can use? If it is, great. If it's not, well, I don't. If you want questions over examples, email me, Paul@BlinkLending. I'd love to go over those. All right, why do assets matter? Here, famous scene from the movie Gladiator. Hollywood has repeatedly got things wrong when it comes to history. Here, they did it once again. This did not mean keep them alive. This actually meant send them to the heavens, kill them. This did not mean kill them. This meant keep them on earth. So, assets. If you pass, I'm giving you this. I'm keeping you on earth. We're going to keep you as a client. Hope that you choose us as a client, and we are going to do a lot to have you choose us over others, because we realize clients that have great credit, great income, and great assets, well, they can choose anybody. So why choose us? And we have a whole slew of that, but that's not what this presentation is about. To be successful in business and investing, you've got to have skin in the game, a stake in the company. Appraisals really don't matter to me. We do not get third-party appraisals. I have private lenders go, are you kidding? You don't get appraisals? I'm like, are you kidding? You lend your money based on somebody else's opinion of the value? That's scary to me. Now, why don't appraisals matter? Because, sorry, you need to have skin in the game. Until we have done 3, 4 deals with the client or lent plus $500,000 and had it paid off. Listen to that last part, and have it paid off. You lend to one client, they come back to you, they do another deal, you're like, everything's going great. They've only made 1 month payment. I want to see the deal complete. How did you handle it from beginning to end? After we've done 3, 4 deals together and the numbers are below 70 or 75%, we'll do 100% financing. Until then, we want our clients to have skin in the game. I found people will walk away from upside. Very rarely will they walk away from their own money they put in the deal plus the upside. Not experience. Look, knowledge. I love this slide here. Knowledge is like a bunch of dots on the board wall. Experience is being able to connect those dots. Questions to ask right here. What got you started in real estate? How long ago was that? Are you a buy and hold, fix and flip real estate investor? When you hear buy and hold, they tend to be more qualified, just as a little tip. Are you currently working on any projects? I love asking this question because if they are, I want to know how many, because I don't want to be the guy that lends deal number 7 to somebody that's already working on 6. And when one deal goes wrong, well, he's going to ditch my deal because he's got those other 6. I'm the lender that he's known the least, and I'm the one that's lending to him in new territory. Unless there's someone that has done 7 projects at the same time before, I don't want them gaining their experience literally on my dime. How many projects have you completed in the past 24 months? Look, I get it that you used to flip houses back in the day before 2008. It is a whole different industry post 2008. I can make an argument it's a whole different industry post 2014, and we can all likely make an argument it's a different industry today than it was back in February. The point of that is I want to know what your experience is lately, not that you scored 4 touchdowns in high school and now you're a shoe salesman and you want to go back to doing sports, right? That gap in experience is huge. Sorry?
I just said Al Bundy in case.
Al Bundy. That's it. All right. Now, how do you check experience? Show me. Don't tell me. I like to see HUDs. I like to see the HUD from when you bought the property, and I like to see the HUD from when you sold the property. And what I'm looking for here is the same company on the buyer side. It's the same company on the seller side. Now I get to look. How long did you have that project? How many months was it? What was the rehab budget? How fast did it move along? How much money did you make on the transaction, right? I get to really dive into your experience. And diving in this deep, you do it when you start having little gut checks, right? An old mentor of mine said, Paul, there's no such thing as a false positive on a gut check, right? There's no such thing as a false positive on a negative gut feeling, right? HUDs is how you verify that. The HUD from when you bought it, the HUD from when you sold it. Your contractor, are they licensed, bonded, insured? Do they have are they part of the BBB? Look, I get the BBB hustle. You pay the money, they put you on the website. You ask a client, good friend, to write a review, you get an A+ rating. We've done that. Why I want to know if they're on the BBB, because it tells me, do they care? Do they care enough about their business? Do they care enough about their brand to do this? Or is their contractor their cousin? Right? My brother-in-law is a contractor. The rehab budget would normally be $50,000, but he can do it for $30,000. Great. We're putting $50,000 aside for that rehab budget. Just because you can get it done for $30,000 doesn't mean that I can get it done for $30,000. I want my rehab budget to be set as if I was to walk into Home Depot and hire one of their guys there to come finish the project. I don't want to have to chase your brother-in-law or find my brother-in-law to do it, or any brother-in-law that's going to do it for $30,000 when it's $50,000. So who is the contractor, and are they licensed, bonded, and insured? Are they a third-party contractor that has creditable BBB Google reviews to where if something goes wrong, they're going to care about a negative review? Because see, I want to be able to, if something goes wrong, the person that I go up the chain to say, hey, I don't like this. I want them to care, and I want them to fix it. I don't want to. You guys get it. Another place, social media. Go on social media. Look, people leave reviews for people on social media. Also see the projects they're doing on social media, right? I love following clients on being friends with them on social media. As a private lender, a lot of times I get to do just random inspections by just going to their page, their Facebook page, and looking at a video they did. It's like, great, project looks like it's good. Or wait a minute, what's going on there? I need to call them. All right, 39. Number one question a private money lender should ask. It's not return on my money I'm interested in. It's the return of my money. So what's the question? What is your exit strategy? What is your exit strategy? Are you fixing and flipping? And if that's it, what are days on market in that area? Is this a 30 days on market? Is it 120 days on market? What's the inventory like in that area? How long are you going to have that loan out for? If it's keeping it as a refinance, have you already applied? These are questions you're asking your borrower. Have you already applied for a loan? If so, what bank? Are you getting a conventional loan? Are you getting a non-conventional loan? Just asking a few questions. How, even the mannerisms in how you receive the answers tell you stuff. I'm keeping it as a rental. Great. Have you applied? No. Why not? Well, I had this credit thing and I'm waiting on my credit too. But once I fix my credit, it's good. Also, I got laid off right now. It's a COVID thing. You just start hearing stuff just by asking questions, and you want to ask those questions. Remember, you took the red pill. Checklist, what we asked for. Without going through this, half of it is what the title company asked for. Title company is going to need a copy of their valid ID. They're going to need a copy of the contract. They're going to need the assignment. They're not going to need comps. They're not going to need a scope of work. You do as a private lender. Survey. Get a survey. Just get a survey. If you want to know why, Paul at Blink Lending. Get a survey. Homeowners insurance contact information. You want to get homeowners insurance? Lease agreement, if the property is leased, I like getting the lease agreement just to see how long is it leased out for, what's the intent afterwards. Company entity formation docs, do loans in the name of LLCs. Copy of the last 60 days of asset statements we ask for, copies of last 2 years tax returns. If you're keeping it as rental, want to know your most recent pay. All right, again, what was our intention? To set our guidelines, aka our strike zone, so that way when loans are coming at us, we know, is this something I want to take on? Or is it out of the strike zone? Is it something I want to pass on? Remember, he or she with the gold makes the rules. If you are still someone who's going, Paul, I don't care. You know, I stayed with you on this presentation because there was a guy on here supposed to talk about storage units. Then I saw your Santa hat, so I said I'm going to stay on here. I'm still only going to lend if the deal's good. Awesome, it's your money. You get to make the rules. But I ask you this: if you know the client's credit score is worse than it could be, it's in the 500s or 600s. If you know they don't make the amount of income that qualifies them to be a better borrower, if you know they don't have as much money as you would like them to have, don't you think knowing these things would allow you to charge them more? And knowing these things, don't you think you could price yourself a little more competitively? So I'm not getting all the good clients out there. So just selfishly from you, it's going, look, if the client doesn't have these good credit income assets, CIA, I can charge more. If the client has good credit income and assets, I can charge less. At the beginning of this, I said, borrowers, don't tune out, because a lot of this stuff now you're able to present yourself. If you are someone that has 700 plus credit scores, you have good income, you have assets in the 6+ figures as far as liquid goes, puff out your chest. Let people know this when you're talking to them, when you're talking to private lenders. And because of that, demand great terms. And terms aren't always best interest rates at most points. There's a whole bunch of junk fees that are charged out there as private lenders. Inspection fees, draw fees, interest on money that you haven't received, payoff fees, servicing fees, admin fees. It just goes, wire fees. It just goes on and on. You shouldn't be paying any of those. You're an elite borrower. You need to be treated as one. About the property, location, purchase price, renovation budget, after repair value, days on market. A no for us. This needs to be edited when the rehab budget is more than 40% of the purchase price. I know it says 50. When it's more than 40% of the purchase price, we stay away, unless we have pre-existing relationships with the client, right? I don't want to lose great clients just because of a project. I know they're going to perform, but what I don't want to do is take on a project that has a massive rehab with a new client, regardless of the experience. We also stay away from the 3 C's: construction, condominiums, and commercial. New construction, condominiums, commercial, we don't do. It's our strike zone. Do you ever have questions? I know that says inklending.com. That is not a typo. Yes, it's Paul at blinklending.com. Inc Lending. Inc is an acronym for Investors Need Knowledge. This is a website dedicated specifically to private lenders that are wanting to see our process, have a guide for when they're lending out, and just a forum to ask questions if you ever have them. When you go onto the site, if you have a question, that it comes directly to me. So I'll be reaching out to you personally and answering that. All right, quick market update. Rates are low. If you own a property and your rate is above 3.5%, look at getting it refinanced. Of course, anytime you're looking at a mortgage or thinking of lending, we love for you to think Blink. Email again is Paul at Blink Lending. Send me a copy of your mortgage statement. Love to send you over options of what's available to you, especially if you're above a 3.5%. Also, property taxes. You can refinance right now and include your property taxes within your new loan and not pay a cash out adjustment. It's the only time of the year you can do this, which is right now. You can include your property taxes in your new loan, not pay cash out pricing. Why Blink Lending? Well, you want to work the lender. I'll save the peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter by itself is awesome. Jelly by itself is awesome. When you put them together, you have this magical thing called the PB&J sandwich. One of the biggest differences from us and other lenders is we play in both sandboxes. We are a private money lender, and we are a long-term licensed, bonded, insured conventional lender. So we can do all the loans the big banks can do. We're wholesale, they're retail. What that means is our rates are lower, our process is a lot faster, and we don't charge junk fees. And so we get to do both. If you're someone who's a buy and hold investor, we're perfect for you. If you're ever looking to take cash out, we do those loans, VA, FHA, all that. Any questions? Who's awesome? You guys are awesome. That's my information right there. Efcharisto, that is thank you in Greek. Derek, he's 15 minutes early. I'm 14 minutes early.
Bam. Dude, you're awesome, Paul. So keep your slide up just for a minute so people can get some of your information. And I was hoping that we could just kind of have a quick chit chat of just some things that I think both of us have experienced and a lot of our clients have experienced, right? And one of the things that kind of always pop up, because we bring in a lot of people, because notes when we talk about self-directed IRAs seems to be one of the most popular investments. So if I'm going to be lending my money, there's two humongous lenders in Texas, and really there's three. There's Blink Lending, there's Jet Lending, and ILS. And it's funny when we bring in Tom Berry and we bring in Eddie Gant, all three of you have a different perspective, right? And I know Tom Berry talks a lot about more of the deal. You talk more about the credit score. So does the deal really matter as much then? And I know you kind of brought it up, but why in your guys' case does the credit mean more than the deal?
An advantage we have over those companies and others in this space is we do conventional loans. So, I've been a licensed loan officer and now mortgage broker since 2003. So I know I look young in years with this gray hair coming in, but I'm coming on almost 20 years experience. With the majority of that, everything up until 2008 was strictly conventional VA, FHA lending. So my brain has been wired from day one to think as a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac lender. The other gentleman that you mentioned, and tremendous respect for both of them, they were investors that became lenders. So they've been wired with the investor hat. So I think it becomes how we were both programmed. Of course, we're each going to have our takes on whose way's better. I think each of us has found the way that works best for us. And for me and, Rick, Gabe, Ravi, Kelsey, Judy, Yuri, we're always talking about the client, because it spills over somewhere else. And in that, when you're so focused on the client, you're really focused on the client. And I don't care what business you're in, get really focused on your client. And the more defined your client is, well, the more you're able to say yes. I joke, but it's serious. Until I defined the woman that I wanted, I wasn't able to say no to the other women. And it happened that most of the women I was dating were my no women. And I'm sitting there going, why am I not married? Why am I not married? Why am I not married? And then I defined what's my strike zone for my wife. And then I'm looking around, it's been my best friend who's been right there the whole time. Now we're happily married going on 6 years. So it's everywhere, right? It's in who you spend your time with, in knowing your no. And for us, the no starts with knowing what client we want to lend to.
So that brings into, because I know there was some questions in there and I was just answering and typing as you were going, but was some people would disagree with some of this. And I said, you know what, that's
sure.
fine. You can disagree with it how you want. This is up to you as a lender, right?
Absolutely. No,
that's a wrong way to do it. I love you said who holds the cash is the golden rule, right? If you don't like it, go someplace else.
That's exactly it. And it's the lender that wants to only lend on the deal. Hey, they're the ones that ate on the left side of the menu. They're the ones that took 3-day vacations instead of 7-day vacations, right? They're the ones that didn't buy the brand new cars and made the sacrifices along the way to get them to where they are. So, it's information, add it to your business. But ultimately, the person that's lending the money, they get to lend it based on their rules. And the people that are borrowing the money, well, they have a choice too, right? If they don't like the rules that the lender is presenting, well, they can go borrow it elsewhere. So it's a beautiful dance, when you have a well-qualified client and a private lender. It really has to work for them to choose you, because now you're both in a place of choosing, as opposed to it being the other way of heavy deal.
So I wanted to talk for a minute too about some points and interest. Is that okay? We talk about the points and stuff.
Yeah.
As an investor,
anything you want to talk about, anything at all, stump, whatever. Doesn't matter.
So as an investor, if I'm the borrower, do I want to pay more points and less interest, or less points and more interest?
Depends on how long you're keeping the deal, right? So if you're going to keep the deal for a shorter amount of time, you want to pay higher interest, less points. Right? If I'm going to be in and out of a flip in, let's say, 2-3 months, well, I'm okay paying 13, 14, maybe even 15% interest if I can get away with no points. Because the points are really the shorter amount of time you pay back the loan, the higher your annual interest is. See, we as clients, borrowers, hear 12% interest and 3 points. Well, that's 15% annualized, right? Now, if you're keeping the loan 6 months, well, cut that 15% in half, and now you're at 7.5%, right? So and it's probably actually a little even more. It's 6 months, and then the 3 points, you're actually paying 9% on that money within a 6-month period. So you don't pay that 15% unless you keep it the whole time. So the direct answer to your question, Derek, is if the rehab is going to be a shorter period of time, meaning the loan is going to be a shorter loan, pay higher interest, less points. If it's going to be a longer period loan, well, now it's the monthly payments that you want to be low, right? Because you're going to be paying more of those. It's a longer loan. Ask for higher points, less interest.
So I love it. So as we kind of go about these motions, I know a lot of people, lenders, and I want you to understand, I have physical clients across the U.S., but lenders gravitate to lending here in Texas. Why is that? Because
we're awesome, man. Are you kidding me? Texas is amazing. Look, all that of what I just said is true. We lend in God's country of Texas only. We're not going out. We're not going to have branches all over the United States. We care this much too. I'm trying to get my aunt to move to Texas because I don't even want to get private lending money outside of Texas. I want to lend in Texas. I want all the money to be in Texas. I want all the work to go to Texas contractors. Like, I came to Texas at 10 and a half years old. I'm 40 and a half years old right now. I love this place. Absolutely love it. Now, why is it? Our laws are great. You go to these coastal states, someone doesn't pay you, it takes you 12 months to foreclose. Here in Texas, you don't pay on a homestead, on a non-homesteaded property, so an investment property, 3 weeks. Let's go. Your next round of foreclosure dockets and you're out of here. So the recourse that we have here in Texas is fantastic in that our money's not tied up for 6, 9, 12 plus months trying to foreclose on a borrower who the whole time is either living in the property or not.
So, love it, man. And Selena, I see your question. If you can email Paul that question just so we can try to make it a little easier, but make sure you email that over to him so he can get it answered. And I know Paul will answer you directly. So
fantastic.
Yeah. So as we kind of come to an end, we're coming into a brand new year of 2021. All right. Is there anything that people should be looking out for, you think, for the new year coming into play?
That's such a great question.
Am I putting you on the spot? I'm sorry.
No, not at all, actually. So here is we're doing a presentation on the 16th, which is next Wednesday. The topic is 21 investor musts for 2021 and beyond. So I've got about 25 different things on here. What I'm realizing, Derek, in putting this together is, and Brent Mott is going to be presenting this with me. Brent Mott is an investor. Some on this, we know him, may not. He's phenomenal. What's very clear on here, it's there's a lot of personal development stuff, which can be broken into just taking some time for self, and that's easily said often than done. But it has to be done, right? You and I spoke way back in March or April, whenever it was. What are some tips and pointers you have? And the big thing that I said is, look, we've been gifted time here like never before in our life. Yes, there's a lot of challenges going on, but if you've ever said, if I had time, I want to do this, and you don't do it now, just shut up. Excuse me. But we were given such a gift of time that going next year and every year after that, I think it's up to us to continue recreating that. So when you ask what to look out for in 2021, yes, put what matters to you most. We had our third child last year. And so, and as you know, Derek, I have twin girls that are 2.5 years old now. So I have 3 kids in my house that are under the age of 3. We bought our new house in December. We renovated it. March, we all know what happened. So it's been a little different for us, right? Even with all the time, my wife and I used to do date night pretty consistently. My number one for next year, and my recommendation to anybody that's married or in a relationship, is take time out for that. I've noticed when I'm good personally, like when I'm exercised, when I'm feeling good, when I'm eating good, when I'm in a great place with my wife, all the other stuff just comes. So the answer to the question is focus on you and focus what's on most important, starting with your relationships. You're muted.
I was muted. I just wanted to make one last comment before we kind of close everything out, guys. But one thing that didn't really get brought up is I've actually, as an individual investor, okay, from the Quest side, I've always lent money from my IRA. Ignoring Quest for a minute, I've also always been, I've borrowed money. And the first time I went to borrow money, I actually found a deal, and I approached you, and I was like, "Hey, Paul, I have a deal, da da da." And I didn't ask you how much you were charging. I didn't ask you about points or interest rates or anything like that. Do you remember why I didn't ask you any of that stuff? It's good. Does any of that really matter if I'm the borrower?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, because it's you did have a home run deal, right? I think the reason you didn't ask me is because, well, we have a relationship, and you've heard from plenty clients firsthand on the terms, and they're going to be fantastic and in line with what the market has, and specifically to someone like yourself that's able to choose. So yeah, I get it, man. I get what you're saying. When the deal's fantastic, like, doesn't matter. It doesn't when you need to move on to the next deal and get it going. In your case, Derek, you called, I think, because, well, you like us, right? And you've already vetted us. You wouldn't take a higher rate than what you had to, and others shouldn't either. So how do you avoid that? Well, just call us.
I like that. That's a great answer. So, guys, Paul, man, you did us a big favor. You came on with about a 3-minute notice. If you guys didn't realize this, Paul was called at about 11:57. Event started at 12.
I was at home. I rode my bike to the office. I live 6 blocks away.
And he's not exaggerating. So, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. Hey, guys, make sure this Saturday you join us. We have Eddie Wilson, the CEO of Think Realty, coming on, as well as Nathan Long, the president of Quest, and Richard Wilson, who's the CEO and founder of Family Office Club. They're going to be talking about a lot of different aspects in real estate. That's this Saturday. Kurt went ahead and put a link in there. It's completely free to all you guys. You're going to have 3 big masterminds coming into play to help educate and work with all you guys. Paul, once again, before we close it out, any last-minute questions, comments, concerns? In God we trust, and in everybody else we verify. Awesome. Thanks, Paul. See you around. Peace. Bye. Woo. And Charles, if you're still on, go ahead and end the meeting for everyone on here. Everyone, thanks for attending. Kurt, thank you for moderating. Paul, love the hat. Woo. So bye, guys.